You think you're afraid of conflict, but what if I told you it's actually costing you promotions, respect, and the ability to have real influence? Like most managers think that they fear workplace conflict because it might end in awkward Zoom silence when no one wants to speak up, or, the passive-aggressive email wars that you might have seen. I mean, who wants to explain to their boss that their team isn't producing the results because a huge amount of time's spent sorting out petty squabbles and so-called personality clashes? Now, explaining poor performance to your boss is bad enough, but what most people are really afraid of is what's happening inside of them when conversations get tense. It's not about the other person, it's about them. Without you even realizing it, your early childhood experiences can get triggered by tensions and conflict that happen now that you're an adult. Those unhelpful childhood responses can unconsciously influence how you respond as an adult and become limiting factors in your ability to lead and influence. So now that you know conflict isn't about the other person, but it's about how you respond, how do you stop your brain from going into full panic mode? Stay with me, because I'll show you 3 simple ways to handle conflict confidently, without awkwardness, anxiety, or the urge to disappear under your desk. Now, the mistake most people make is that they believe that they're just bad at confrontation and always will be. Well, that's a fixed mindset, the idea that this is just how I am. But here's the truth. Handling conflict is a skill, not a personality trait. And skills can be learned. When I worked as a psychodrama therapist in a drug and alcohol treatment centre, I had to learn this real fast. Patients would come to my program usually 3 weeks into their treatment. By that stage, they were angry, defensive, and ready to challenge everything. They didn't want to be there. And they didn't want to face the triggers to their drinking and drugging. Now, my job was to help them do precisely that. It was intense, and at first, I was terrified. But I discovered 3 things that changed everything for me. Let me share this with you. The first one was to reframe your mindset. Your mindset shapes your approach to conflict. Instead of thinking, I've always been bad at this, shift to, up until now, I've struggled, but I'm learning how to do it better. This small change moves you from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, where you believe that you can improve. And that belief, it will change how you show up. The second step, calm your body and your mind. Given that you realize that you aren't naturally bad at managing conflict, that it's something that you can learn, here's the next thing that you can do. When you're in a tense situation, your brain works against you. Well, it's sort of for you, because it prepares you for survival with the fight-flight response. Your heart rate spikes, your muscles tighten, and suddenly your whole logical brain is out of office. But you don't need that in a conflict. What's the quickest way then that you can regain control? Is to breathe. Deep belly breathing. It sends a message to your whole nervous system that you are safe. And while you're at it, naming your feelings to yourself. Something like, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling tense. Now, this simple step helps you regulate your emotions instead of letting them take over. You own them. To name them is to tame them. And then step 3, get curious instead of defensive. Because once you've calmed yourself down by breathing and owning your own feelings, what happens? So when someone's upset, your first instinct is to defend yourself. But here's the trick. Don't react. Instead, just get curious. Acknowledge to them that they're upset, they're annoyed or concerned or whatever they're displaying. And then instead of asking, why are you upset, which sounds a little bit like an attack, ask, what's happening for you right now? Or what's making this important for you? What questions keep the conversation open and show the other person that you're listening? Now, when people feel heard, their anger often dissolves. Here's a final thought. Next time conflict creeps in, which one of these shifts will you try first?